So, what has changed between the year you started, '05, and now? How has your voice in this medium shifted? Do you ever think about that? Your approach to things?
I think particularly when I'm dealing with authors and experts, and I use experts in the sense that they're no, kind of to our point, there's no true experts in the sense that I don't think anybody has all the answers, but there's certainly people who have expertise about these things and know the history. But I think when I very first started, I'm like, oh, they wrote a book on this, they must know the answer. And now I think, even though I try to, although, I did have some journalism training in college and so forth and broadcasting, I don't consider myself a true journalist. I mean, I didn't go to J school or anything like that. And I always try to maintain a little bit of distance and treat authors respectfully and even-handedly, even if they have what some might be considered outrageous theories. I like to treat them with respect and let the audience decide on those. But I have kind of gotten out of a little bit of like, oh, they must know the answer. They wrote a book. When I first started, it's like, oh, they wrote a book on this. They must know all the answers. And now it's still very respectful, but give us your thoughts on what you believe. Because I remember years ago, before I started podcasting, listening to Art Bell, who I believe that anybody who does a podcast or a radio show in these kind of formats owes him a great debt of gratitude. He's kind of like the Johnny Carson of our genre. He kind of, I know there were some people before who dabbled in it, but he really was the man. And I used to think, how can he believe all these people, or how can he believe all the theories they talks to because or are communicated on his show, because the one conflicts with the other? And the answer is, just because you interview someone, when it comes to authors and experts, doesn't mean that you have to agree with their theory on something. But I think hearing them out is not a bad idea, even if at the end of the day you say, no, I don't think that's right. So I think I'm a little less awestruck by experts. I think the biggest thing is I'm more convinced than ever that something's going on. But again, I'm not sure what. Now, just to be clear, when I interview people, I kind of look at it in two different directions. You have the authors and experts I interview for the Paranormal Podcast and some of my Plus shows. Those are people who have written books and so forth. I view those interviews differently than experiencers. A big part of what I do is interview people who have experienced something strange. And those people, the vast majority of them, I believe, are being very sincere and very real in what they're sharing. Now, does that mean they really experienced something paranormal? Does it mean it's possible that maybe they're mistaken, or maybe there is a normal kind of explanation for a supposedly paranormal event? That's always possible. But I always try to respect very much those people's stories and go in with the mindset, I'm believing this person and what they say. And I really do believe the vast, vast majority of those people are being 100% sincere as how they perceived the events that they share on that show. But I guess how I've changed is I'm more, it's weird, I'm more of a believer and I'm more of a skeptic, but in different ways. I have no doubt. And going back to what you said, you don't think we understand the nature of reality. I think you hit it on the head there 110%. I think that the world is so much weirder than we imagine. Kind of the example that I use, I think about like one of these old stately manors that has like a library in it. Okay. It's one of these big, huge libraries, all the fancy furniture, like Downton Abbey kind of style stuff going on. And the door's closed. And we are like a person who comes to the door and the door is closed, and we look through the keyhole. And it's like one of those old skeleton keys where you can actually see into the room. And you see that there's a few leather-bound volumes. You can kind of get what the room is. That's what we see of reality. And what really is of reality is what books are on the shelves and what's within those hundreds and hundreds and maybe thousands of books. So that's how far we are from what reality really exists. So when it comes back to the question of respecting science and believing in science, I do respect science, and I think it's great. I think it only explains a fraction of reality.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And it's the reason too why on my podcast I'll have like community college professors talking about the standard model of physics, but I'll also have people like Avi Loeb talking about Oumuamua as a potential extraterrestrial object. And it all goes hand in hand. It's all important to a certain extent.
Yeah, I love people like him because, I had a chance to talk with him as well. Very learned, obviously. I believe he's from Harvard, if I remember correctly. And he leaves space for both the reality of science, but also the fact there are realms and things that we don't understand, and there may be greater explanations. I love when scientists try to bridge those gaps. I think that's great.